moment you begin to decline, you are shipped off even by the people who love you most, and then you have no right really to come back to that place where everybody regarded you as a god. In a school, if you do not fulfill the requirements, even though you were there for several years, you may not be allowed to continue. And then, of course, the family is also the place where the children start from age zero. I know that most schools, some schools are beginning to lower the age of starting school, but at least most people, by the time they get to school, they're already 3 or 4 years old. So the family is the love of the spouses that is mirrored in the family, and that is what the children start with. The parents are the first people that they see, and so the parents are uniquely positioned to be able to tell them things that are really important about their lives. The sexual instinct, apart from this instinct to survival, is the second, the most, is the highest actually. If you remove the ability to survive, the sexual instinct is the second highest. So even more than the food that we eat. So it's a passion and a faculty that needs to be guided. And that is why the topic said um, guiding them to understand sexuality within a framework of sound values and healthy relationships and personal responsibility and human dignity. So we see in schools, like when the children are already from 9 years and above, we're talking specifically about boys, and the clubs that they attend, the most prevalent aberrant behavior that we see is pornography is one, and then the other one is treating people as objects of pleasure, So, but just like the other, Mrs. Ekwem said, the human person is a totality of, it's not just about biology, which you can easily learn in schools. And then it's not about what the media tends to tell young people that the propaganda that is being moved all over the place, that they have freedom when they express themselves sexually. They are delivered from the inhibitions and the taboos that society has put around them, and that they achieve human maturity and the emotional fulfillment of the person. These are things that are said, but once the reality is very far from that. So we have to create this environment that will bring our children up, as she said also, from the get-go, when they ask any question, to be able to answer age-appropriate, give age-appropriate answers. And as they grow up, to continue to scale up the answers that we give them, and also to create circumstances and occasions to be able to um, um, uh, have this discussion with our children. And since it's personal, it's also necessary that it's usually a one-on-one thing. It's not a group activity, because the need of each person is actually different, just as we are unique in ourselves. The most important virtues, really, when we talk about virtues for developing of this faculty, would be the control of the will. The virtue of temperance is the one that deals with the controlling our will. But there are also virtues that go with it. For instance, tenderness. Tenderness is a virtue that considers loving the whole person as the totality of a person, including the frailties and everything. Especially for boys, it's very good that their raw energy is able to be controlled, to be able to see, especially in a woman, the need for tenderness because of all that she brings to the family. First of all, nurture, to be able to carry that child and take care of the child with all the inconveniences during those early stages. Then, of course, other virtues, because if we are not able to control ourselves um, in things like that, even things like food, for instance, or going where we want to go, or spending our time where we want to spend it, then it becomes a very serious uphill task to deal with this instinct, the sexual instinct, which, as I said, is a very powerful instinct. So we begin with little things of control, eating at the proper time, doing things when they're supposed to be done, to begin to grow this virtue of temperance. And then also to be able to have what we call family values, that we should ask the why of things. We don't just flow with the crowd. I'm not doing this thing because Mr. A is doing it. I'm doing it because this is the reason why I'm doing it. And to be able to answer those questions when our children ask us a lot of these whys that they ask these days. And to be able to also grow as parents, not to assume that the children do not know. We just came down back from a trip with young boys aged between 6 and 14. And sometimes if you carefully listen to the conversations they are having, you'll be amazed at the knowledge that they have, even the vocabulary that I heard once 8-year-old boy saying rhetoric questions. And I was wondering if during my time, when I learned the meaning of rhetorical question, and many other things. And they were talking about parents and what the parents used to say and all that. And you listen and then you find that they are really deep in their knowledge. So not to assume that they do not know certain things, to create occasions to be able to um, for them to ask the questions and to answer them, as she said, without mincing words, with sincerity, up to the level of their curiosity. Um, so that is really what we have to do. The family is the place to give this personal attention, to give this friendship, and to give this one-on-one session that is not usually available for other people. One of the other things that we also notice in the clubs is pornography, and then it's something that touches everybody. But one of the authors of books like For Men Only and For Women Only, Shanti and Jeff Fieldman, there was a poll that they conducted about um, women who see their husbands watch porn, and then they were the message that the women passed got from it was that, well, they said we do not feel adequate for this man. Um, he sends me a message that I can't satisfy him, and why should I bother really trying to satisfy him? And he says that he felt like cheating, even though the man hadn't done anything. But of course, in the Bible, Jesus says that if you look lustfully at a woman, you're already doing that. So it confirms that feeling. And then so we can also change this message for us to pass messages as young boys modeled after their father, because this is really where the fathers come up. The fathers are the ones who would handle this education because the children look up to them. And then if the father is able to pass the message that we are in control of our senses, we are in control of our eyes, and that our spouses are the one and the only thing that matter to us, it would reinforce whatever we are trying to teach. So they look at us basically, apart from the things we say, they look at what we do and how we do it and how we relate to our wives and other family members and also our friends. So I think that we need to also know that uh, the emotional life of children, uh, that's the one that deals with emotion and reward, develops quite fast. That by the age of 15 is already probably fully developed. But the prefrontal cortex, the one that controls planning and logic, takes up as much as 25 years to develop. So if you mix these things and the thing is not very well guided, they are bound to make mistakes. And our role as parents, as fathers, as mothers also, is to be beside them, to guide them until they are fully able to take charge of their lives. I think I'll stop so far and then wait for further um, action from the moderator.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so I guess it's time for any questions, because you've said a lot and I'm sure people have questions in terms of how to practicalize the theory, so to say, or how to approach it when they need to discuss with the boys. So any questions? The house is quiet. Okay, so I guess maybe I would ask the first question then. So in terms of the practical way of it, so how do you start that conversation with a child, assuming the child doesn't come to you? What's the best way to, say, a 15-year-old boy, for example? Hello?
I don't think if we are starting by 15, we already lost it actually.
Oh, so what age would you say?
Well, so from age 3 already, 2 to 3. I mean, you take advantage of, for instance, if mommy is pregnant or somebody comes in who is pregnant, and then of course the differentiation of the sexes, is something that they have to know as early as possible, that this is a boy and this is a woman, and this is a girl, this is a boy, and how children are born. These are things. Curiosity of children make them to ask those questions as early as from 3 to 5. So the situations in the family also give rise to, okay, this is, they can ask you how children are born, so you can explain, in a most simple way, and also put in this love aspect that Mrs. Ekwem talked about. The biology is that the children are born through the birth canal, but the human love aspect of it is that mommy has to go away for a time, and when mommy comes back, mommy has to be helped a lot, in order to take care of the baby, because she doesn't sleep, she gives up this and she gives up that. And I think helping mommy will also help the child. And then they want to carry the child, want to do something in order to be useful to the family. So that's really for the very early stage, but then the thing grows as the child. I mean, when they are from 5 to 8, the conversation is different, because they also begin to notice certain changes in their bodies, and we have to be able to explain, for instance, that as you grow, your genitals also grow, and that they get bigger, just like daddy. That is the biggest one. You are getting to be a daddy, all those kind of things. At 15 is already a bit complex. I mean, if we have to, these are grounds that we have covered. And then, of course, one of the things that we fight that may not have been in the past is the influence of the internet. We were on an education visit, and then we were telling the children to pay attention and that there are prizes to be won if they got the questions right. And one of them said, we will use AI to get the answers. So to know that these are also there, and sometimes they do not give the thing in the frame which we want to deliver the answers to those questions.
Right. Thank you so much. Okay, so we have people wanting to ask you questions. If I first, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir, and thank you, everyone. Mine, kind of a guidance that I want to seek from you all. My own issue has to do with my second son. I have 3 kids, and the first is going to be 12 this year. My second son is 10, and then my last child, a daughter, she's 8. While they were growing up, I noticed that my second son had an unhealthy, I say unhealthy, no, I wouldn't say it's unhealthy, but a concerning affection to the sister, which has to be my last daughter. And we noticed it while they were growing up. I think it started becoming a concern when they were 4 or 5 years ago. That was when it started becoming a concern to me and my wife. And then it prompted me to have a sex education with my 2 sons. That was about 5 or 4 years ago with them. And then there are certain things that happened that I needed to call both of them, my daughter, a couple of years ago, separately and threatened her, and then my son separately and threatened him as well. Threatened him in the sense that I'll tie them up and send them to the village and dump them in the forest if such things happen again. But since then, I haven't seen anything. But my question is, do I need to come in again to have another discussion with them to check in with them to make sure that it doesn't happen without the parents knowing? Or do I keep on, because checking in means that I'm drawing attention to those concerns, but not checking in means that it may not be happening, or I may not know that it's happening. So I just wanted to know how best to come in, or do I need to leave it and then only be observing? Then something else that gives us concern and then step in and then have another discussion with them. That is my own concern. Thanks.
Okay, sir. I love that you noticed, but then the threats may work 2 ways, either for or against. It might make them become more conscious of themselves and ensuring they don't get found out. And when you notice this disorderly affection, that was a very beautiful teaching moment. Not with the threats, but with a full explanation of the inordinate nature of those affections and how they should be applied, especially in their relationship as brothers and sisters. Because, when people are threatened, there's an antenna that goes off in them that tells them, okay, then caution needs to be applied. Did you emphasize the wrongness of this disordered affection? Did you emphasize the fact that these are not the right things to do to somebody that you're bloodly related to? And the emphasis of where this is most appropriate, which is in a marriage setup, that these are things that you and your wife engage in and not for them. When I said something about the explanation of human law, is all about respecting the dignity of the other person that God has placed in our environment. The first time you noticed was a beautiful teaching moment. So instead of using the thread, that was the time to have explained to them that they are related and these affections are not to be expressed between them. That what they should have is filial affection for each other as siblings, and you make the distinction because their ages, when we were growing up, maybe the person that talked about 15 and all of that, but if you try to explain this now to a 15 or 12-year-old, or maybe you call them to ask for a conversation about sex or their sexuality, you might be surprised if they retort with the response, Daddy, Mommy, what do you want to know? No longer, what do you want to tell us? That's why these conversations are better started even as early as 3. once they become conscious of their bodies, whether they are conscious of it or not, in fact, is to explain their anatomy to them and tell them to what purposes these are deployed to. And when affections like this that you know that are inordinate rise up among siblings, to also point out, the fact that no, these are disorder and these are not the things that you express for your brother or your sister. These ones are even between a boy and a girl. It can also happen, I've seen that in my practice, where these affections are felt between sisters, and they start engaging in things that could be termed sexual amongst themselves, until they were found out. And this was happening because maybe we as parents, we did not notice this and we just let it pass. Oh, they're fond of each other. Oh, they're so close to each other. And things were happening. Things that were inordinate, things that were untoward, until it became an issue and the girls themselves had to come out with this problem. So instead of the threat, I believe a further explanation of the relationship between the two and the limits of the expression of these affections instead of the threat. Mr. Edozie might have something else to add to this.
No, I think that you have hit the nail on the head. The critical thing really is that threats may work either ways, and so we need to remember we said family is a place of love, a place of friendship, and also to take advantage of things that could make children talk. The family dining table is a place where you get a lot of information without asking for. So you can have such family times that somebody says something that you do not have to ask formally, to create environments where people talk naturally. But the critical thing, the most important thing is that why are you doing this? Because you love them, because you are their friend, because you want them to turn out good, And the biggest business every parent has is to educate his or her child. So there could be issues along the way, but we face it with a sporting spirit. Of course, we can apply discipline, but in a way that it does not make that child feel threatened and therefore to kind of go into his or herself and not to bring out what is really bothering that person.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we have someone else. Osinachi, please. Thank you very much. Your question.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to speak. My question is, I have a 10-year-old boy, and we have not explicitly had the conversation about sex in the in any way, like maybe in a like a kids friendly way. We've not done that, but growing up, like raising them, we've talked about puberty, how to protect yourself, good touch, bad touch. We've had that conversation. I have a 10-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl. So we've had this conversation about puberty in both of them. We've had conversations around, okay, what changes to expect in their body, each of them. So they are well aware of that. But we've not talked about sex explicitly or even in the slightest of terms. So 2 weeks ago, we were on our way to church and my son started talking about his teacher, talking about things that body changes in teenagers, and talked about how sexual intercourse, that was the words, the phrase, sexual intercourse could lead to unwanted pregnancy in girls. So he said that, and I kept listening. So he said, okay, he said, Mommy, did you have sexual intercourse? Because before now, I had gotten the question, Mommy, how did you get pregnant? And I said, oh, I prayed about it. And when they were like younger, they asked, okay, how are babies born? How are babies born? And I explained I had a cut, so I was able to show them my cut because I had cesarean section. So, and then when they started growing up, I explained that kids also could be born through the vagina. So now, my son asked me, "Oh, mommy, you didn't have sexual intercourse, right? You prayed, and you had children." So I was in a tight place to, give an answer to that question, and explain how I had sexual intercourse, or if I didn't have sexual intercourse. So what I did was I said, um, I will have this conversation with you later, but let's go to church and come back. And I've not had this conversation. In fact, I told my husband, and he said, "Okay, we're going to make our time to have this conversation." But my question is, how do I start this conversation? How would this conversation come out in the most appropriate way for a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old, please? Thank you.
Is to say the way it is, explain what sexual intercourse is. Because, like when they see some of the scenes on TV and all of that, and we use that opportunity, instead of telling them, close your eyes, or no, this is not, we tell them this is what happens between a man and his wife. And that when they continue like this, you explain the body parts. Because even at 6, 7, they should know the body parts by name. And by 8, because now the ages are really dropping, you have to explain to them how the body parts come in alignment and what it is called. Because now the teacher have told them about sexual intercourse. So you have to take that phrase and explain it. Yes, your daddy and I had sexual intercourse, and all the other things that happen when people have sexual intercourse. If they are able to understand all the parts about ovaries and semen and all of that, you explain that that's what happened and pregnancy occurred. Not losing sight of the first explanation you have given about prayer, because you wanted a child, so you had prayed, and you and daddy had sexual intercourse, and this is the result. Him or her were the results of the sexual intercourse. Because running away from it, I've come across parents who have like 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and they're this matter is too heavy in my mouth and all of that. But when they discuss it with their friends, it's not heavy in their mouth, and they use the wrong insinuations about it. So the first place to start is not to discountenance the prayer part. Yes, we prayed, we had intercourse, and here you are, because that's the natural progression of things. Then you start explaining the intricacies of the biological process, if they can understand it, which I believe some of them have capacity and faculty to. Because when we do not, explain this, and the teacher is already on that course, okay, then they might just go back to the teacher to find a better explanation, and maybe the wrong examples will be used. And to tell them also that sexual intercourse is what happens within the confines of marriage and not outside of it. Now you're bringing in another teaching that they should not have this outside of marriage, without even intending it that openly. So the first place to start is to continue with the prayer premise, and go on to say, yes, we had sexual intercourse, and this is what happened. And name the body parts, because they have to know it. This one we say wee and pee and all of that. No, call the female part vagina, the male, the penis, and that this is what happens, the conjugation that happens, that this is how God intended it. Because if you now try to superimpose this other information, or maybe try to cover it or erase it, it's not going to be erased, because that boy or the girl, that curiosity, is already established, and they must find out the truth. Somebody had asked, about the previous speaker asking whether they should check in again. Of course, by checking, not furthering the trend. Check in with the fact that now the explanation you should give. Yes, there's no harm in checking in again, because they might just be doing it more cautiously so that they don't get found out.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Okay, can we please have Zess? Thank you very much. Your question, please.
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good
Hello,
evening.
can you hear me? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
you can.
thank you. Okay, the last person that asked the question asked exactly what I wanted to ask, and I also have 10-year-old and 9-year-old. But the thing is, I'm confused on how I'm going to discuss it, because I know that I won't discuss something that has to be sex the same way I discuss with my friend, my husband, or I can't say the same thing to the kids. So I'm pleading, is it possible that you can take me as a child and tell me about sex, so I will know how to, because the way you people talk about it here, children. But if you teach me now, I'll know how I'll pass it to them. So I don't know. And second, sorry, the part you said that she should still tell them that they prayed about it and they later had a child. Yeah, it's good, but I feel like they would think, okay, or unless maybe while you are checking it, while they are growing up, you can change it. Because I feel like they'll be like, some people will be like, okay, I can actually do something and then the person won't get pregnant. Maybe it's when you pray about it and do it, that's when the person will get pregnant. I don't know if I'm right, but I'm just saying.
That's
Thank
why I
you.
said when you explain it, if you're more explicit about the process of sexual intercourse and explaining and making them understand that this is something that happens within the confines of marriage, of course, the children will now understand it without you explicitly saying, oh, don't have sex outside marriage. But you've brought it in, establishing the fact that this is something that should happen. Okay, in my own setup, I have an 8-year-old, and I've, of course, had this conversation with her, and even told her some of the facts that people should not engage in if they are not married. So on her own, because most of these things are all over the place. So sometimes she sees something on the screen and she goes, are they married? I said, no, but what they're doing is wrong. So you have to bring her down so that she doesn't also believe that, okay, it's okay to do this even if you're not married, because we already had the conversation that these things are very valid but within marriage. Okay, so if she now sees anything untoward, she will first of all want to know, is that the wife or is that the husband? And if I say yes, it's okay, then she knows, okay, they are doing what they're supposed to do. Okay, but when you do not let them know this, according to their age, because I mean, for an 8-year-old, she or he may not understand fully what engaging in these acts outside of marriage may mean, the full import. But it's still for us to say it. And as they grow older, we try to enlarge the vocabulary and the explanations. But whenever we are discussing this, we have to name the body parts, point out which touches are good and which touches are not okay, which pictures to even see, good pictures, bad pictures, good touches, bad touches. So they start internalizing that knowledge even before they get to age 5. And that's why they are able to come to you, oh, this person touched me, or even if we leave maybe house assistants to give them a bath, there are things we should also let them know that, no, this person should not do, all in the name of giving me a bath. So that's what I'm trying to explain. So there are things you say, and that's why we say age appropriate. And when they are able to understand better, then we're able to also use those words that they can identify with.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. We have Engineer Bolu, please. Your question. Engineer Bolu? Okay, I think he's gone. At least okay, so there's a question in the chat room. It says, does it make a difference if daddy explains it to
Hello,
the boy?
confirm you can hear me, please.
Oh, you can. Okay, sorry, it's back. I can hear you now. Okay, Engineer
Okay,
Bolu, please.
okay, thank you. So my question is, I have a 14-year-old. He is the only child. I have not explicitly had the conversation around sex with him, but I know we've had that conversation around good touch, around bad touch, and also I know from time to time I've had conversations around, is anybody touching you? Did anybody touch you in the bad way and all that? Then I know he always comes back and said, no, not at all. But because I've not had the other deep conversation with him, if I want to start now, so how can I start that conversation? But more importantly, because he's still 14-year-old, is there any cap to the amount of information I can share for his age? Is there any place where you say, okay, this is too much information? So to what level do we need to have that conversation?
Okay, somebody also asked, does it make a difference if daddies explain it to the boy and mommy to the girl? Yes, it makes a difference, because you as a father is modeling. I mean, it is the role model that your son is seeing. And there are issues, the mommies are very close to their children and they tell them everything. But when it comes to these issues, you find that they are reluctant to talk to their mommies. I mean, the boys, they just find a way to talk to their daddies. And unfortunately, sometimes the daddies run away. They, try to run away from it. But we are the people who are supposed to talk to our sons. Coming to your question, since already started, it's just that maybe you are behind a bit. Between 8 and 13, the children should already know about wet dreams, for the boys, wet emissions at night, they get up and they haven't wee-wee, but they see that they have emissions, these are things that you should have been explained before they are 13. So if you haven't done it, you can do a combo for them. The most important thing is that atmosphere, that personal touch, that atmosphere of love exists between the two of you. And at 14, they should already begin to know about hormones. Mood changes that come from hormones that are building up, that are preparing us to adulthood, both for the girl child and for the boy. Sometimes the girl can tell you, I'm moody, I feel like crying, and all those kind of stuff. And then the boys, of course, their voices already begin to, at some of them as early as 14, begin already to crack. Unfortunately, sometimes they don't ask us things that they have already found out. The internet is so full of information these days that, I mean, in those days, you ask questions and you get maybe a one-line answer. These days, after answering you, they'll ask you if you want AI mode. And then if you ask AI, it can give you a full textbook on that thing that you're asking. So sometimes they do not ask, but they already know. So if they do not know which would be what we want, we can keep giving the information until they start to talk about another thing. That means they are not interested anymore, and that's where to stop. But a 14-year-old should know about the hormonal changes that take place in the body to prepare the body for the adulthood, and then these are indicators that they are going to be fertile, they're going to be daddies like you are. And of course, the feelings and emotions, as we say, has to be controlled. The worst thing that can happen to a person is that the emotions are the one that are in charge. Because somebody who is controlled by his emotions is incapable of loving, because he cannot donate himself. You first of all have to gather yourself together in order to give yourself to another person. So if you do not have that control, you are done for. Anybody can just take you and then whip you around in whichever direction he or she wants. So to say, yes, these things may happen, you might have those wet dreams, but you are not supposed to touch yourself. And then, of course, masturbation, as we know, is not a way to prepare for love. It's a very selfish act. Remember, we have said love is to will the good of the other, to sacrifice yourself for the next person. So if you turn into yourself, apart from the harm that can come from it, is also a way of saying you are not in control, you are selfish, and you cannot really love another person. So these are things, we combine the biology with this, and then of course, if you believe in God, which I think most of us do, we would know that it is the plan of God, that made it so that we will be able sometime to have another child replacing that person, and that if we have to really try to control ourselves in order to be the best version of a father that we want to be, so these are things that we can bring to the table. And the good thing is that you're already you've already started it, and just that you're a bit late. So you can do a combo up to the level that he is now, and then hope that it is taken in.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have a question in the chat. Could you please kindly respond, Angela, so that everyone will share too?
Okay, I want to clarify from the person who wants to know whether illicit content can be shown to children. We all live in a world where you don't even need to. Time there was when if you wanted to go to any pornographic site and all of that, you needed a link, but not anymore. They're all there. You can even open your Bible to read or your Quran, and things are popping up once you're using the screen. But then we see these things all over around us. You see people all in the name of public display of affection. You could just be walking on the streets and people are engaging in that explicit show of affection. And your child can also ask you the question, are they married? It doesn't have to be something they see on the screen. And if they, why I said, when maybe if they are watching something, maybe all these Nigerian movies or even the foreign ones, and there's a scene that shows display of affection. Okay, if the child sees them kissing and all of that, it's no longer the time to say, close your eyes, because when you're not there, those eyes are not going to be closed. So it's for you to use that as a teaching moment and tell them, what these people are doing. They are doing it because they are married. And if they are not, it's also that moment that you use in explaining to them. Not that you're going to just show them illicit content and all of that, because truth be told, it's staring us in the face. Even the adverts that we see on the road, on the billboards, there's no censorship anymore. So you are now the censor of what your child takes in.
All right, thank you very much for that explanation. Thank you. Sorry, can we please have Popola, please? Your question.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I will be diverting a little bit from sexual education, although it's still part of bringing up a total child. So it's about my son. Sometimes he says some words in school that, there are some words that they mean the normal thing and they mean the offensive words. For example, when you say pussy means, we all know as adults what pussy means. But when I asked him, he said it means the person is a coward or something. I don't know. So he says all these words carelessly because he doesn't know that sometimes these words have a greater meanings that are not even supposed to be used in the society. So, for example, they went to camp, the last camp that they had in second term, and he said, and fortunately, or will I say unfortunately, some children, like JSS3 children were coming to school during that time. So they were always on uniform while they were on mufti day, they were staying in school as they were on camp. So he said he heard somebody saying, when they were bullying a child, he was saying, "I'll put condom in your mouth." So he grabbed it. So the same situation happened to him, and he used the word carelessly because he was still in the camp that it happened to him. So I was called and I was asked to, talk to him. So I had to talk to the teacher that, see, I know my child is not an angel, but at the same time, he's not a demon. You understand? So these children, sometimes they pick words and they use it carelessly. And I've been trying to raise him on how to control himself since that time. I had to tell the teacher that the children that really know the meaning of these things, they don't use it carelessly. You can never catch them with the words. But because he doesn't know, he wants to feel like a big boy to like, okay, somebody said it, I also want to say it. So he used it carelessly. And when I was even beating him, he didn't even, I said, do you know what a condom is? He said he doesn't know. He doesn't. And I had to do like a kind of survey over a week to wake him up every morning very early, like that 4:30, and ask him, why did you do this? And he kept repeating the same thing that I had a senior student said it, then I also used it, I didn't mean he knows the meaning, he will have, backslide on the report he's going to give to me maybe one or twice, or because I did it for like a week. So I don't know, is it like it's common with children or the use, because he sometimes, most of the time, he feels like people wants to bully him or something. He's always on the defensive, side. And I told him that you don't have to say bad things before you can defend yourself. But I just want to know what else can I do as a parent to help him out in this kind of situation. Thank you so much.
Sorry, could you please help us with that? Angela, please. Hello.
Okay. Okay. I thought.
Thank you very much.
I thought Mr. Nedoze was going to take that. Okay. So you see, sometimes when children are growing up, they want to do things that are acceptable to their peers, so that they can also feel as parts of the group. Maybe they start using words, some even use swear words without even knowing what it is all about. So it's for you to, like I said, anytime this comes up, the parents should not be scandalized, or thrown into some sort of shock, oh my goodness, where is my child picking this up from? It's for you to now call the child with your bland face, expressionless, even though you might just be boiling inside, and use that moment to explain, okay? And that's why we shouldn't find any of these topics as a difficult topic for us. Once it has come up, you should even be glad that they came up. So you try to explain to him what it is, and how it is not to be promoted or advocated, that is its use. Because it's not just enough to tell him, oh, don't talk about it again, don't use this kind of words here, we don't use those words. Why don't we use those words? Why don't we want to know about this thing? It's not enough to just tell them, no, I don't want to hear anything about this. Why are you picking up this? This is the language of the devil. It's for us to explain. And that explanation coming from us, remember we started this conversation by saying that this will be done with love. which is found in that family environment. So if the children know that they are not going to be condemned, they're not going to be reprimanded, they'll be forthcoming with more information about the things they know. Like you said, you asked him and he doesn't even know what it is. Then it's for you to now know what to explain to him and to tell him why that is not even a lane to be walked on or a line to toe. You know, because when you say, oh, no, we can't talk about this is not a conversation for you. No, it is a conversation for you to have with him or her. You know, I've had situations where, you know, some young girls, because of their friends, you know, talked about sex toys, something they've not seen, but out of curiosity, maybe their friends have seen or they've not seen, but they encouraged each other to just go online and know what these things are. And by the time they went to explore, they were horrified, you know, and they regretted, but you know what the eyes have already seen is difficult for them to unsee it. So they now started seeking clarification. They wanted clarity on what these things were. I thought this belonged to human bodies. How come this is now being projected as products to be deployed for pleasure? And that was a good teaching moment. So it's for you to explain to him what his friends were talking about and to make him realize why he should not even avert his mind to, because their own is now, if it's not enough to say don't, they want to know why shouldn't I? And that's where our own responsibility comes in, to explain the why to them and not just to, you know, brush it aside or make it look as if, oh no, this is coming from the devil and all of that. You know, so it is the explanation that we need when that opportunity comes. But the best thing is to also talk about these things even before they come to us with this question.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have another question from Adewumi, please. Your question, please. Hello? I think we may have lost her. All right, sorry. For Esther, please, your question. Hello? Okay.
We can hear
hello?
you.
You can hear me? Okay, sorry. Esther, please. Esther or Adewumi? Okay, so I guess we can take the question in the chat box then, since nobody's, I guess maybe internet issues. So someone said, I am also mindful of having a balance between this can only be done during marriage or when you are 21 years old, an adult. I have a daughter and wouldn't want her to stay in my house forever. At that age, if they love each other and decided to explore, why not? I've provided her with the information to make an informed decision. Your view, please, or your take on that. Thank you very much. Hello?
It's a question that requires a bit of prudence in both what you say and what gets passed on. Remember that the process of getting married is not just, so there's what we call premature intimacy. You know, to cultivate this idea of being tender to the next person, giving yourself to the other person, because the sexual instinct is very strong, it is very easy to get to, I mean, within a few, I mean, if you just want, I mean, in the very first meet, you're already out there. But then what it does is that since you do not really have not explored the chance to know the person that you are going out with, you kind of stunt the growth of these other virtues of knowing the person, of knowing what the person likes, of knowing how to please that person. And then, of course, it never gets to grow because you already got to the reward bit. So yes, there's a somebody who is 18 cannot be told the same thing as somebody who is already 14 or 15. But then, in order to follow the right process of engaging in wanting to get married, we have to start with the period of courtship, the period of engagement, and then of course getting to the last stage, which is to get married. So just because we are 21 does not mean that without knowing somebody we can throw ourselves open to the person because we are adults. If we do that, most of the time it doesn't end well because you now probably get married to the person, because what happens is that when this so-called falling in love, it kind of clouds our vision. But after about 6 months, it disappears, and then you are wondering how did I even get to be with this person? Because we have not followed the normal process of courtship, and you do not know the person that you are getting involved with. So even as adults, we have to be cautious as to opening ourselves, being intimate with the person without really having gone through the whole hog of what we're supposed to do. So that's what I can say about that. So it's still the responsibility of the person to make sure that you're opening up to the right person. And the best way of doing that is not to push forward sexual intimacy before it is supposed to happen.
Right. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, can we please have Adewumi again?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Sorry, what I wrote was not a question. My phone is iPhone 6, so I was just trying to tell you that iPhone 6 is Adewumi. So when you are doing the attendance, you can get it right.
Oh, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you so much about that. Thank you so much.
We can also take contributions. I know there are experts here as well, so it's not just about questions. I mean, we have experiences. I mean, I know the kind of audience that we have. We probably even have people who have PhD in these kind of things. So they might also teach us. We are all learning.
Okay, we have Mrs. Akos, please. Thank you very much. Mrs. Akos? I think the internet service today. Okay, so I guess if we can't get them, I guess that's the end of this session, unless someone else has. Okay,
hello.
we have her. Okay, all right,
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sorry,
Mr.
the
Akos.
network. Yeah, the network is poor.
No okay.
So, good evening, everyone. My own is the question I have is whereby a parent has a child that has already been exposed to pornography. I have a friend that the daughter was like 10 years old, and then the mother now found out that she was visiting a pornographic site. And by the time they asked, she said her daughter told her that they were even in primary 5 when, during the sex education they usually give them in school, a teacher mentioned it. So out of curiosity, she went home, and in their tablet, the normal tablet that they kept in the house for them to use to be making calls and all those things, she happened to, she went to check what porn is. And then what she saw, before you know it, that child started watching that pornographic site. And my friend said from even, before, I think in year 2, they started teaching them, this touch, don't touch, the sensitive areas to touch, and this is my own, and all those ones. So it's not as if the mother did not teach her all these things from like baby. But funny enough, at the age of 10 years, she happened to find out that that child is visiting pornographic sites. In that case, and for like, my friend said, for like a year, she kept asking the same thing. Is this somebody that led you to this? She kept saying it was in her primary 5 that a teacher mentioned it during sex education. So out of curiosity, she came home, carried the tab in the house, and she checked. And since then, she's been watching pornography. So as a parent, how do you deal with such situation? Hello?
Mr. Nedozi, are you taking them? Well, we can both speak to it
Well,
because this is a prevalent thing now, children getting hooked on pornography. But one thing is watching. One thing is knowing what effects it has already had on the child, because sometimes it transcends to them starting to touch themselves and being vulnerable to even touching other people, and, they see all the sensations and all of that, and they start feeling themselves. And also is to also know, of course, the first thing is to make sure that she's no longer having access to the screen time that enables her to do this. Okay, we can see what is happening all over the world now. The age for exposure is even being reduced. Sometimes it was like 12, 13. Now they've increased it to 16, for children to have access to all those social media content. Like I said before you could just only need a link to pornographic sites, like not anymore. You can be reading your Bible and they pop up, and the curiosity of the children, they don't know how to restrain themselves and they click. So it's for the parent to even find out how far this child has gone, how it has affected his or her sensibilities, because it's not a question of, seeing this and getting scandalized and all. Yes, you might be, but as the adult in the relationship, you should be able to put a restraint on your reaction and engage that child in conversation. Because like I always say, it's not enough to tell them, do not do. You have to go a step further to explain why you should not do. Why you should not consume this content. What the effects of that content you're consuming will have on you, even in your adult years. Because there are still some adults who are battling with the effects of pornographic content that they watched years ago. Now maybe they're in a marital relationship and it's beginning to haunt them, because that's what it actually aims at. It destroys your ability to enjoy natural sex. Sometimes it might even make you asexual, where you don't even want to engage in any sexual intimacy, both with a spouse or even regular boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, So it's to explain to the child and make sure they no longer have access to such content, because the more exposed they are, the more devastating the effect it will have on them. And of course, take the child through counseling. I work in an environment where I have so many children who are exposed to this kind of content, and some of them have even become sexually active just on the premise of what they've watched. They've gone the step further to see, okay, let me know what this actually entails, and they'll tell you, oh, that it's safe to do that because you won't get infected or you won't get pregnant when you engage in touching yourself or when you engage in same-sex exploration of affection. So all these lies are fed is for you to know what the child knows, the effect it has had on the child, and from there, begin to make the child unlearn, because they can't unsee what they've seen, but is to now unlearn and to desensitize them from the effect that it has had on their psyche. Because I can tell you, some of them come out heavily affected that they are no longer interested. And I try to tell them, I say, even the people that you see in the pornographic movies, that they are actors, that they are acting, they are paid to do that. And sometimes they are drugged to perform all those acts that you're savoring. And sometimes there's been stories of some of them even getting suicidal and actually killing themselves because they look back on it and they feel so dirty, they feel so used, they feel so objectified, and they can't function in a normal relationship, and they end up taking their lives if they don't seek professional help. So when the child has really gone into this, when you feel you can also not handle it, there's nothing wrong with seeking expert help, because that is also offered under strict confidentiality. Thank you.
I was going to say that just like we have drug addiction, there could also be addiction to pornography. So we need to know whether it's just a habit or already an addiction. And we can't, unless we're experts, we can't really fight addiction. So if we feel that we are not getting the result from talks and all that, we should also seek professional help in order to resolve this matter.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think this brings us to the end. There are no more questions. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Ike Unedozi. I hope I pronounced that well. Thank you very much for that. And thank you, Mrs. Angela Ekwem as well. Thank you very much. If people need more information, do you have your contact details? Can they contact you if they have more private questions they want to ask? And maybe explore some more topics. Would that be something you'd be open to? Maybe contact details that you can leave in the chat room.
Yes, not to sell our market. Of course, we do this on a professional basis,
okay.
And we know that this is an inherent problem now.
Yes.
It's gone are the days when you tell girls, so if a boy touches you or you sit next to him, you're going to get pregnant. No, the intricacies of the effects of all this need to be explained, to the children. And where you also know, there's no shame to this, because the harm will be greater on the child who is untreated, who is uncounseled, and who is not subjected to therapy. There are helps available. Okay, and we're here to do that.
Okay, so can you please kindly put your details in the chat room so that parents can take that confidentiality, personally in privacy, so to say. Sorry, that was the word. Sorry. Thank you very much. So I'll let you put that on, and then people can obviously copy the details if they want to privately. And thank you everyone for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night,
everyone.
Bye.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Please, it's just Mr. Ike Nadozie's contact that is in the chat. Can we
I was just going to say, I was just going to ask
Mrs.
her. I just wanted to see.
on.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mrs. Ekwem, please, can we have your contact details as well? You need to sell your markets. Oh, yeah. Please.
Yes, so you need to sell it very well.
Let me see. She put it in there. Okay. I will get them to, I don't know. I think she may have left already. Let's see. Oh, she has left already, I think. Oh yes, she has left. So I will get them to send it around so that we have our contact details as well.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you very
Nice.
much.
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.